Hello, my name is Zach Yost. I am the team lead of the EPL card reader interface project for the Winter Spring 2023 Capstone cycle, sponsored by Ed Ivory. And just diving right into our project, it is taking these little card readers, and you'll be able to scan it with your student ID badge. It'll take you to an entry in the database where it'll display your trained machines, what you can or can't do, update the safety waiver status. It will also help you cover if you're an admin or manager, being able to promote, add new students, all that good stuff. It'll also keep a log of users based on who have scanned in for user metrics. And then just jumping right into our demo, get this launched here. A classic pre-generated admin class here. And we'll just start by adding me as a student. My real badge number, otherwise this demo wouldn't work too well. Now let's see if I'm in there. At the moment, this is going to be a button press, but in our next iteration, we have it now working as an automatic loop. Here I am, woo, on the scanner. So now let's get me trained on something, yeah? I want to be trained on the multi-press. And this is also updated in the future to actually train rather than do it this way. But for the demo's sake, here's that. We'll do the permissions again. Hooray! Now we can also manage the equipment. So let's edit this guy. I need me something more exciting. It's already linked up to the website. And actually name this guy demo test. At the most, this is duplicated just on the HTML page, so we will be fixing that as well. And now let's head on over to permissions, just see if it shows up. And there it is, updated, because this is database driven, kind of a big deal, kind of cool. So there it is now. So then we also have the option to export this. A little less exciting, it'll just take us to like an Excel spreadsheet here. For the equipment overview, we went through and edited that. If I just do a quick check-in here, go to the dashboard, you can see these history logs of every time I'm scanning something. We also have this waiver that's actually embedded directly into the system, and it ties directly back to the Google Doc where this is actually all sent. Some old card reader tests there. But for the most part, I believe that is the majority of our overall program. You can also, of course, add new equipment here. Obviously, it's not going to actually have an EPL link, but it could be like a 3D printer. Then just use my old student ID. And then we go to this equipment overview. And here's that new 3D printer we added. So for the most part, that's the core features of our demo. Of course, we can also go in and add, edit, promote people. Now if I log out and log in with my information and my email, so password, ta-da, I'm now an admin. So those are the main parts of our program. So thank you for coming by. And next we're going to have Tam speaking about some of our major features.
Hi, this is Tam. I will go over some key points of our software today. The first point is that the LPL card reader interface have the function to allow lab managers and the admin to keep track of all students using the LPL equipment and includes their training status. Additionally, students will scan their PSU ID card on the card reader in order to register on the systems, and it will check the permissions for them to use the lab equipment. Furthermore, the software have some database management, such as adding, removing, updating user, equipment, and the equipment categories. So the admin will be able to promote anyone's by using the promotion features. Lastly, the system will keep track of students who checked in to the lab that day, and the data will be exported into a CSV files for future purposes. Talking about target audience, so there are three main audience for our software. The first one is administrators. Admin will initialize the database for a new lab at any time. They can use the promotion features to promote user to managers or the admin. And they also have all of the abilities as a manager does. Secondly, the lab managers can use some functions like adding, removing, updating students, the training status, emergency contract, and the waiver status. Lastly, students can only add themselves or scanning into the system. We would like to discuss about the assumptions. So we assume that in order to maintain our software, we need someone to who can program a little bit, like the CSC students or our sponsor. And the software will be installed on one consistent terminal. Furthermore, the other capstones in the future can expand on our product.
So moving right along, our first feature is lab check-in and equipment permissions. Students, they can check in independently to the EPL or through a lab manager, either by scanning in their PSU card into our card reader or through manually entering in their access badge ID. Upon check-in, system users will see an overview of equipment trainings for that student. This will allow the student and lab managers to know which equipment a student is trained on and able to access for that day. And also the student's check-in information is going to be logged into our daily user log. Second is the PSU card reader. This is actually building off of a previous EC Capstone's RFID badge reader system. Our interface interacts with this badge reader as a fast and efficient way to get students access badge information. Users can utilize this feature by checking into the EPL either independently or through a lab manager, verifying a student's equipment trainings, and for faster, more efficient training group sessions delivered by a lab manager. And then fifth is user interface, which is what I spent a lot of my time designing for this project. Our sponsor, they needed a way for lab managers to easily access all of the features of our system, and also needed a way for students to check into the EPL independently. This necessitated design features such as a dashboard with clear and easy access to primary functionalities all on one screen, the ability to check into the EPL while a lab manager isn't currently logged into the system, quick access to EPL lab equipment online resources. Also wanted to pay special mind to responsiveness, just to allow for a polished looking UI at all screen sizes. And also, given the diverse community here at PSU, it was important for our team to ensure that our system was accessible for those with visual impairments and that they may need to use our system with a screen reader. And then moving along to other additional features of our system, we have the EPL safety waiver embedded into the UI. Just to ensure whenever we add a new user to the system, it's really important that they're signing the safety waiver before they access any of the equipment in the EPL. The second is the equipment overview page. Like I stated earlier, from this page, lab managers can access the appropriate online resource links on the EPL website. There's also a timeout functionality just for an added bit of security. Just after a certain amount of inactive time, users will be logged out of the system and have to log back in order to access our features. There's also the promotion of users, which adds the ability of changing the role from student to lab manager, and in other cases as necessary. And also the recent user event log. This log will track all of the students that checked into the EPL for that day. And this information can be exported to a CSV file just for future reference for admins and lab managers moving forward. Thanks.
Hi everybody, this is Mikayla here to talk about building the EPL card reader interface. So we faced two or three big challenges here. One is that we needed, it was a large enough application that we needed to choose an architecture to help us organize all of our pieces. We had a lot of different features to build, so we wanted something that allowed us to move fast, and we also wanted to make sure that the code we wrote was accessible and functional for future Capstone teams and for the client. So to solve those problems, we chose a client server architecture using web technology. Helped us organize all of our different pieces, and the team already had experience building websites, so we were familiar with it. And then another philosophy of using as many pre-built popular libraries as possible, which is very useful on the web because it's very popular, and it allows us to spend more time focusing on functionality. And because we had so much breathing room from these two choices, we got a chance to test and review each other's work with these tools. So here are some of the technologies we used. We had used Python and JavaScript as our core languages. They're simple. We already knew how they worked and could pick them up. We used Flask as our web server framework. It's simple, it's flexible, and there's a lot of tools integrated with it. Then to implement the server functionality, we used Jinja 2, SQL Alchemy, and PySerial. Jinja 2 is a templating engine that would take data that we produced using SQL Alchemy, connecting to the database with Python code that would generate SQL statements. And then all of this data would be cross-referenced with the badge reader, the data coming from the badge reader, which we could read with PySerial. And so all three of these would create the functionality. We also built an integration with socket.io, both on the client and the server side, so that we could generate events live every time somebody would put the badge, a badge up against the card reader. And finally, we used Bootstrap as our UI UX framework to help us move quickly and have something that looks really, really fancy. And because we had all this, we also built a simple continuous integration with Read the Docs, which would allow us to generate nice, clean documentation for future Capstone teams.
Hello, my name is Austin Anderson, and I was in charge of implementing the database for this project. As stated earlier, we decided to use SQL Alchemy for our project as we had already elected to use Python for the core of our application. SQL Alchemy allows us to use SQL queries by calling Python methods. As such, SQL Alchemy was invaluable for our project as it gave us the ability to work with our desired database. With regards to the database engine, SQLite was chosen. This engine is quick and efficient with low traffic usage, as it itself is written in C and meant as a serverless option for database management. This is perfect for our purposes, as the application we are running on is a single machine and was required to be self-contained. As for our schema, we were primarily dealing with 3 tables: users, machine, and the training log. As the tables and machines have a many-to-many relationship, the training log join table was needed. The table consists of many members, all of which contain the segmented information of each user, their role within the system, a password hash if they are of manager or admin role, and a relationship to the training log join table. The machine table is a smaller table by comparison, but equally as important. It contains the name and image of that particular machine, a hyperlink to that machine on the EPL website, a relationship to the training log, and a categories relationship to other machines. Now, the training log join table links up both previously mentioned tables by using the positional ID of both the users and machines in their respective tables, the date and time of the user's training, and a relationship to both the user and machine tables.
We integrated the RFID card readers, the hardware, into the project using the PySerial library to implement a card reader class as the interface between the Flask application and the operating system, and specifically the serial ports. This posed a couple of challenges. One of which was the design of the card reader class. By design, the PySerial library acts on a sort of fetch basis. You make a request to the PySerial device, and then it returns whatever data is in the buffer. This is, for a badge reader, this is kind of counterintuitive to how we expect an application to work. We scan the badge, and then the app does something. And so to get the functionality of our application closer to that sort of more intuitive intuitive interface. We ended up initializing it in its own thread, or we ended up using socket.io to kind of periodically poll the card reader every 1/10 of a second, to get new badge data in those areas where we needed it to scan, such as for training or that kind of thing.
Hello, my name is Austin Gallup. Some additional features that we are able to implement were the card reader backup log and timeout functionality. The card reader log came about initially as a solution for a most recent user's log. This feature happened to be duplicated by more than one member of our team. So we were able to pivot our work and integrate the card reader log as a backup for the physical card reader. In the case of a crash or failure, the website side of the program, this feature ensures that every user that is badged in is logged and that information is accessible to admins and managers. The timeout functionality was specifically requested by our sponsor. This feature is meant to allow an admin or manager to step away from the program and know that within a reasonable time frame, the protected information and actions will be restricted, reverting the website to a only user level function, such as signing in or creating a new account.
There were a few issues we had while developing this application. While most were quickly resolved, there were 3 that stood out from the others. First of which is the fact that we didn't have the card reader when we were building for up until about halfway through development. Thankfully, this was rectified by our sponsor being able to get us a new version of the hardware. Secondly, the card reader wasn't allowed to interface with our application on both Mac and Windows. Lastly, and this is still present today, the database is all stored in one file. This, however, does not impede the actual use of the application.
And lastly, of course, I would just like to thank everybody involved, including our sponsor at Ivory. Special thanks just for working with us as a sponsor, giving us a lot of feedback, working with us for demos, always checking with us, making sure, do you have what you need? Do you need more card readers? Always letting us know like, oh, hey, here's something we want to change or update. And just the overall feedback was just so valuable throughout the whole process. And thanks to my team, who were also awesome, that we were able to get sort of this usable product out. So thank you, Ariel, Austin, and Anderson, Austin, Gallup, Natasha, Mikayla, and Tam. And of course, Bruce Urban for running the whole thing. Thank you.